Good evening. This is the Rutland Town Planning Commission, and it's July 11th. Do we have one more member coming in, maybe? So let's begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, yes, we do have a full house. So Norm and Jim, you will be alternates just in terms of voting tonight. Approval of the agenda.
Second. So I see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Those
who's
two are
missing?
6.
Sherman, that's right. Thank you for that correction. So no Sherman, so you would be a voting member still in advance. Okay, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the people coming in and out of the door are the police department members or?
It was town clerk.
Oh, okay. So I don't see any public comment here. Moving down to the item in new business. We've got on the East Pittsford Road, we've got a situation where there may be something happening with access to East Pittsford Road that's not it's not allowed.
Access is what?
May not be allowed.
Oh.
Let me. Hi. We just went by the public comment period. You
That's
here?
fine. I'm just gonna listen.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, so the parcel map that you all have, the parcel in question is what, 320/45 or 46? Bill?
It's the one right at the corner. It's the only undeveloped one there. I'm not sure what parcel number. I'm not sure what lot number it is.
And what would be the name?
It's Laku.
Okay, so that would be 320/46.
Yep.
So the question is that they have built an impromptu, but they've spent a lot of money on impromptu drive already to East Pittsford Road. And they're, they front Colonial Drive.
This is going out the backside.
So it's well,
It's not,
it
they
should go
currently
out.
do not have an egress on the East Pittsford Road side. Is that correct?
Right,
Do not have,
egress.
oh, I thought it already existed.
No, it was put in, very impromptu and, very quickly.
At this point in time, it is there and they have access, but it may be impermissible.
I hope you're not getting into a lawyer thing here.
Sorry?
I hope you're not getting into a lawyer thing. If it
No, I'm
exists,
just
it's
trying to,
real.
I'm just trying to clarify that something exists now. Is that correct?
Yes, but there was no driveway permit,
Yes, that's, okay. Right, that's what I want to
okay,
know.
issued.
There is a driveway permit issue. Yes, there is.
There is. What does it say, Bill?
That is temporary.
Okay. Temporary until,
November 1st. As late as.
okay, and then their driveway will be to Colonial Drive?
Correct. Right. Yeah, that was the whole plan. It'll come out and their access will be Colonial Drive.
So, Act 250 is looking into this?
Yes.
For what reasons?
They are going to take over for us.
Can you explain a little bit?
That's what she told me. She'd be in touch with the property owner directly. And I didn't get any more information than that, so,
So did you get in touch with Act 250?
yes.
Okay, and what did you ask them?
That he would like to have his driveway off of East Pittsford Road, and that it's not one of the ones listed in the Act 250 permit as permissible, and that he may be coming to them for a modification, and he did, and then he changed his mind.
He changed his mind, but he didn't change his actions.
He changed his mind on the permanent driveway, but she was gonna follow up on the temporary one. So we have said, we're okay with temporary one, if Act 250 is okay with temporary one.
Howard, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this certainly shows that our driveway permit policy is not working, and it's basically broken. And the policy should be set up so that this doesn't happen, and that other parties get involved to make sure that there's not something, problem along the way. It could be a septic system adjacent to it that could be a problem or whatever. But I think for the highway commissioner, whoever it is that just grants these permits, I think they're being just too free with them, and that's something that permit ought to have some rules that go along with it, because this shouldn't have happened. I don't care if it's a temporary road or not. He shouldn't have just been able to put that thing there. It's in a bad location along the highway, and I just think it's a mistake. So I'm just thinking that we should have a policy that says to get a highway access permit, you got to do certain things. That's all I'm trying to say. Like
And Howard,
this was a surprise to us. I mean, had we known about it, we could have looked into it a little bit. It's from the planning commission.
exactly. And is there any doubt in your mind that this parcel belongs to the Colonial Estate subdivision?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
No,
And
it does. No, that wasn't in question. Yeah, no, we know it does. So
And
I mean, I understand Howard's point, but there is the property listing did say there are restrictions and covenants on the property. The new owner said he wasn't aware of any. So being that, yes, if we could have brought it to you, but where in that process? So we've issued driveway permits, right along from Byron through Dave, where, and to Howard's point, like there is no ordinance or policy that directs anything in enforcement for the driveway. We're talking about that, we have an excavation permit, and we have an issue in the neighborhood that we have to address, that there's excavation going on that was not permitted, but there's no enforcement, there's no penalty.
Mhm.
So I mean, I'm all for it, but where do we, so if we had brought this driveway permit to the planning commission, what's the process? There's no history for that. There's no precedent for doing that for a driveway permit.
Right.
It's a single lot. There was no subdivision. There was no anything other than he bought a parcel and he wants to build on it. That doesn't come
And when did you first hear about it? And from whom?
from the new owner who said, I need to put a driveway in.
And that set in motion Dave
Yeah.
doing a highway permit?
Don't want to open an argument, but my recollection is that we had a prior case with respect to a driveway, and it woke me up to the importance, because what happened is the fire chief came in and testified.
You're talking Belock driveway
I'm
on
sorry,
Quarterline Road.
I don't remember where it was.
I know exactly the one you mean.
Okay, and he stressed the need for some governance of these things, because of the importance to the fire department to have a driveway that is manageable and friendly to the fire department. So if this is just a temporary one, do we have a driveway ordinance?
The town does, the highway commissioner oversees it.
But it doesn't deal with temporary permits. Is that right?
Not really, no. I think it's either streets and sidewalk, I think it's streets and sidewalk ordinance that it's under. But
So maybe we need to look at it.
there's other ones there's been several other driveway permits that, I mean, I wouldn't have thought to bring them here. Does it fall under the purview of approval or denial?
Well, I mean, this one seems like a really glaring example of a huge subdivision that was created to deal with housing all along those streets in there. And this kind of, disrupts that orderly development of that subdivision. And it's like putting traffic on East Pittsford Road unnecessarily, where they already have access to town streets.
Yes. His concern was the angle of the driveway on the top wasn't ideal at this point.
It's a pretty steep angle now
But
going down. East Pittsford.
just a clarifying question. There is an existing driveway off of Colonial Drive. Is that correct?
No, it
No,
was an undeveloped
it-
lot.
Right.
Okay.
But there was no reason not to apply for one for that. That would have been a no-brainer.
His preference was East Pittsford Road, not Colonial Drive, but
But
so, and we now, this, I didn't have any
Yeah.
information. So, it was brought to us, and within a very short period of time, it was addressed. So,
and as you can see from, the map, there's a lot of properties, and if more than, if some others decide to do the same thing and go on to East Pittsford Road, it becomes a little more of a dangerous situation there.
Some of
That is
these,
not your usual town street.
there are some of these that abut Colonial Drive that do go to East Pittsford Road, isn't
there
there?
are 4 that were specifically granted access to East Pittsford Road.
Where are those, Bill?
I don't know what number
They're
they
just,
are.
they're to the south of it, I believe.
Yeah, they're yes, and there were lot numbers identified in the Act 250 permit as these lot numbers specific.
Gotcha. So that's part of the Act 250.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I couldn't find a subdivision. I couldn't find a subdivision permit in the files that related to this. All there was the Act 250 permit. So I didn't find anything from our own records for this. It was just the state records.
This goes back to 75, you think?
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have another question. How many other lots in that area are undeveloped?
I don't know.
Not many.
Yeah, not many.
That's
A lot of
been,
houses.
that's been built.
Because I
out
wouldn't
for-
have
that's been
expected
built
any,
out for
but
years.
It's almost been totally built out.
Yeah.
There's very few.
Well, this is 32046. Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
what Barbara thinks.
Yeah, that's the,
Locato,
Locato. Yes, Donna.
Sorry. I mean,
You're a
you know I
resident?
live right up there. The lot next to it, 32047 is also undeveloped.
Thanks.
Thank you.
But yeah, this driveway just kind of sprang up and it's in a very dangerous spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It kind of curves and it's steep.
Yeah, and,
On a hill,
and
right?
the traffic tends to go quite
Right,
fast.
right.
Yep.
Downhill from Chittenden. Howard, any other thoughts?
No, it sounds like it's gonna be taken care of. It's not gonna become a permanent driveway. It's gonna just be a temporary, but it's just something that every now and then this happens to us. We see where a driveway has popped up and then we try to figure out how and why and whatever. It's just, as far as this one goes, I guess it's what Bill has said. It's gonna be done sometime in November and that'll be the end of it. I don't know what it'll look like, Barb. You you live nearby there, but you'll get to look at it and see it, but.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're taking a lot of trees down just to put this temporary drive in. They're also clearing the lot.
Mhm.
They're logging that too. So
It's a real-
it just,
it's a very
they're
steep
logging.
lot.
Oh,
It's a very steep lot, very steep, and
yeah,
that's why it hasn't really sold. I mean, it's not a popular lot at all. So
yeah.
they must
So
have.
Howard, what did your office do in this situation where someone promises this is only temporary? And there's gonna be another driveway. How did you stay on top of those situations?
You're talking to Bill? Or me?
You or Bill? We'll start with you, Howard.
That would be Bill, because I have not been involved with any authority on driveway access, but that's a Bill
Yes,
question.
Since I've been here, I can only recall one, and that was, I think, this spring, and it was there for logging, and it was there for like 2 weeks, and it was gone. But Dave said they're coming in to fill out the application. We're gonna give it to them so they can go in, and then it'll be gone. And he said, "Yep, it's gone, and we're good." So
And there's gonna be a residence.
no, this was for harvesting timber.
Okay, but this current
This one is
situation,
for residents, yes.
and is it the same Dave?
Dave
If-
Sears, yeah.
Oh, Dave Sears. Okay, I thought you meant Dave Fusco. Is he one of the property owners? Okay.
Bill, does the town have any, if a temporary permit was issued,
We don't have a temporary permit. We have conditions on the permit that it be temporary. We do not have a permit that is for temporary.
okay? So then my question would still be, if the person who has what I called a temporary permit and which you reworded, which is fine, and that person leaves the driveway there and just doesn't remove it, does the town have any enforcement capability to come back and say,
We have not come across that situation.
But wouldn't the enforcement
Well,
be Act 250?
I-
I mean,
In this case, the enforcement would be through Act 250, not through us. Like
so, yeah, 250 would be the only,
in this
Okay.
yes.
and how likely they're gonna win something with Act 250? I mean, you know what I mean?
Unlike, well, when
Well,
Very
they-
unlikely.
his communication with me was that it was safer to have the drive on East Pittsford Road, and he was sure they'd be fine with it. And then the next time we talked to him, he says, "We're moving it to Colonial Drive."
So we'll see where it goes, right?
I mean, if it goes that far, we would be part of the decision making. We would have a say,
It
and the
depends-
select board.
I mean, I guess if it depends upon what kind of, because it'd have to be a amendment to the
Amendment.
permit. And I guess it would depend upon how substantial of amendment that becomes.
We've seen amendments before. They've come across our desk.
I don't know where this is gonna go, but Kim is well aware of what's going on. So
Great. Well, thank you for that. Is there, yeah.
So in the
Jerry.
bigger picture, are we gonna maybe take a look at the ordinance to see if we can help it somehow, or does that not make sense? I mean, is it just, it is what it is and we can't really help it?
what do we want to try and address?
I don't know. Well, just
I don't
that,
either. Like, that's
I guess I'm just thinking that maybe perhaps had it come across here first, that it's a more set eyes on it to see if there's a conflict with something, maybe? I don't know, rather than just relying strictly on,
we
Road
don't
commissioner?
routinely, or really, being that this was, I didn't really know the whole history of Colonial Drive. I know it's there, but I didn't realize it was like a 95 lot subdivision in 75. So.
and of course, the other problem with
there
us,
was no trigger to say like, oh, actually 50 could be a problem for this. That wasn't really a topic for either Dave or I. So
But nothing's in writing, right, with the town and the landowners right now?
for
For them agreeing that this is only going to be temporary. I mean, there's nothing, no one has signed anything, and I'm just kind of following up on Jerry's.
that's a condition of the permit, right?
we have a driveway access permit in the office that has a condition that what is there is gone by November 1st. That's what Dave has put it as a condition. Whether Act 250 comes back and says, you've got 7 days or whatever to get rid of the driveway, that's a different situation. So Dave's condition is that it's gone by November 1st. Whether that's superseded by the state or not is yet to be seen.
And of course, the thing is about with us getting involved with driveways, in conjunction with we don't know what they look like. I mean, it'd be impossible for us to get out to these construction sites and see them. I mean, it would mean that he's the guy that's
Right. And
obviously.
there are the standards that are attached are those set by V-Trans. So we don't set our own standards.
Right.
We say you will install them by V-Trans standards. Then as those change and evolve, so do ours.
Well, there was a fire chief in the past who would come to us
Right.
with questionable, or some sites that
I know
he was concerned
exactly
about.
the driveway that he's talking about that he came to you years ago about. I know just which one it is, and I know just why. And I mean, we certainly can, but do we have the authority to tell them you can't build a driveway with a stone wall and make your driveway 7 feet wide and not accessible? I don't know.
Maybe not in that case, but in this case, I think we have an orderly development argument.
Probably.
And that maybe, in lieu of talking to Dave about changing the ordinance somehow, is just to ask him to come before us.
If there's something that's obviously in conflict or something.
Right. Or he has any question about
Right.
it. Yeah, Jim.
Changing the ordinance would apply only to cases that come up after the ordinance goes into effect. Anything that's in the works at the time the change or a new ordinance is drafted.
Right.
can't
Right.
hold.
So in this particular area, we'd be talking about the one lot that isn't undeveloped, that
And future
would be
things.
in the future, yeah, or for
Well,
a change
it would apply
ordinance
to any lots anywhere
in town.
In the
right.
future.
in town, but in the future.
Right.
You can't make it retroactive
Right.
to a situation.
That's what Jim's saying.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with Jim.
Norm.
As I understand it from Bill, at present, the situation is with our driveway ordinance that it doesn't provide for a temporary driveway, and we have no enforcement powers with regard to that. I remember, not specifically, but recently, we looked at one of our ordinances and tweaked the enforcement powers and the penalties and that kind of stuff. I forget which one it was. For first violation, second violation, maybe somebody does.
That was the housing or the short-term rental.
I'm sorry?
That was short-term rental.
No, there was something, I think something.
We
before
did
that.
do it. We did an adjustment on the penalty, financial penalty for offenses for short-term rentals. That's the most recent one that I remember.
There was
There's another
one, there was one before that, but in any
Okay.
event, as I recall. But in any event, we're powerless at this point. We have no, as I understand it, nothing in our driveway ordinance that deals with temporary driveways. So, we're at the,
Well,
we're just in the hands of Act 250.
would it be effective for us to write a letter to Act 250?
Not if we, in my view, no, because we have no enforcement power and we have nothing in our driveway ordinance to rely on.
There's nothing about temporary. There is a line about the issuance of this permit does not release the applicant from any requirement of statutes, ordinances, rules, and regulations administered by other governmental agencies.
To be Act 250.
That's the Act 250 application right there. So,
It defaults to Act 250.
yes.
What I would suggest is maybe Bill could send us, if it's not too long, the existing driveway ordinance, and let's just individually take a look at it and determine.
Yeah, it's on our website.
Yes, it's a streets and sidewalk ordinance. It's 19 pages, so yes.
Streets and sidewalk ordinance.
Yep.
Hmm.
It was recently updated because we updated language on culverts, because it used to be galvanized culverts were acceptable and now they're not. So that was a kind of we updated some sizes and types, but nothing major. But it was just done first quarter this year.
So that would have been last July, August, September.
No, first quarter this
First
year.
quarter of the calendar year.
No, January. First quarter this year.
Okay. I get a little confused as whether we're talking about your municipal calendar or the physical calendar.
It was amended January 2nd. It was
Okay.
effective March 2nd.
Okay.
Norm, did you have some?
My suggestion is that we put the sidewalk or the driveway ordinance on the agenda for the next meeting or the following meeting of the planning commission. We all take a look at it. And then I think we're probably better informed to deal with this issue. If, right now we're in the hands of Act 250 and we have no authority, and maybe we'll decide we don't need any. But without hands-on with the ordinance,
I don't know. I beg to differ, I guess, if people can get around it with a temporary driveway and then we have little to none enforcement or power.
suggesting that we look at that by taking a look at the ordinance and becoming familiar with it. No, I don't think we're out of sync. I think we're on the same page.
Dana?
So first, I want to just say thank you to everybody who brought this to our attention. I think that that's important that we be aware of what's happened. So kudos. Second, it seems to me that what is currently in place, and I'll summarize, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, is that one, there is a permit that has been issued for a temporary driveway until November 1st. Is that correct?
Yes.
That seems to be consistent with other permits for temporary driveways that have been requested in the past, even though in the past, the duration of those permits seem to have been shorter.
Yes.
Third, we have an understanding that there is a safety issue with a driveway fronting on East Pittsford Road. That falls within the purview of Act 250. That's the fourth point. Act 250 has already been alerted, and there has been a conversation between the landowner and Act 250. The landowner communicated to Bill that he was going to withdraw the request for a permanent driveway on East Pittsford Road. Have I summarized the issue sufficiently for what was brought before us this evening? And if not, what did I miss? Yep. Okay. So knowing all of that, I would suggest that we continue our education, and I would support Norman's idea that we review what we have for an ordinance simply to keep ourselves informed, and that we let the process through Act 250 play out and that we stay informed about what those decisions are. And if there is something that falls within our regulatory purview, that Bill will let us know as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
So we're tabling it, which I agree with.
Do we see the ordinance? Is that what everybody's saying?
Yeah, and I don't think we have anything to rule on or
On either.
judge. And so
No,
I think we have a good idea of the situation. Let's move forward.
Oh, there's no question, as Jim said, we can't address this. We have nothing to act on, no basis to act, even probably to write a letter. Because we have no regulation. But my thought was we educate ourselves and give some thought to perhaps including some language in the driveway ordinance that addresses this. You know, within the framework of the ordinance, how it deals with things, et cetera. You know, but there could be a situation where we get some renegade and we're there with without Act 250 covering us. We're covering the situation and we have no, you know, really no leg to stand on to regulate it. And I think that's a potential that we need to give some thought to.
Just a quick follow-up, Bill, what were the exemptions that were the 4 that were made?
It's lot numbers.
Right, but what was the content of those exemptions?
It talked about driveway access. It talked about driveway access in East Pittsford Road, and it said it was in 2 different paragraphs. There was 2 lots in one paragraph and 2 lots in another paragraph, and it said these 2 is like 35 and 36, or like 41, 40, like something like that. Like these 2 and these 2 are specifically allowed to have access to East Pittsford Road.
Do you remember the reasoning?
It's got to be because of the grade. Or, I don't know, the grade is steep on all
I
those.
really, when I was reviewing it, that really wasn't relevant. So I was focused on this one, not.
Do you remember the time frame for those?
It was the original permit.
75.
original one.
75, yeah.
So the original permit is not in our roads and sidewalks ordinance that covers this, correct?
The original
and
Act
sidewalks.
250 permit?
Excuse me, the exemptions occurred in the Act 250 permit, correct?
Yes.
Which are not, I mean, they may be referenced by citation in the streets and sidewalks ordinance. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yes, because it says like us granting permission does not remove any obligation from other state regulations.
So I would add one more thing in terms of our judicious education, and that is that we see the original Act 250 permit on which these exemptions were made.
Good idea.
The permit is pretty substantial. There's a lot of documents that go along with it, and there's a lot of amendments over the years.
So let me qualify my request then. I'm only interested in the section that deals with the exemptions where they are outlined. So I don't need 150 pages to understand the exemption that appears on page 57, paragraph B. So whatever that is, if we can see that exemption, then we will be informed should there be future action that we need.
The pertinent
The
section.
discussion of the 4 lots that.
Yep.
That's the exemption you're talking about.
Okay,
The exemption that allows 4 lots that were developed in 1975 to have driveway access to East Pittsford
Yeah.
Road. Because it would be informative to understand what were the conditions, which is what Barbara just asked,
and
that resulted in an exemption being granted to those 4 properties.
while we're looking at
If we're looking at the streets and sidewalks ordinance that is governing driveways, we might as well know what is in place through Act 250 that allowed those other ones to have access to East Pittsford Road as opposed to Colonial Drive. I think that that would be helpful should something come before this body on which we have to make a decision.
I see you, Andy. Is
How
that,
about-
is that, just a sec, is that a motion?
That's what I'm gonna ask. Why don't we put this to bed by making a motion, what we're going to do and ask for everything, and that way it'll be in the record correctly. If you would, Dana.
Okay.
This is a role you've really, really honed.
Well, I honed it. I think I'm constantly being asked to make motions.
Well, you do a good job and,
You withdraw your comments?
Yeah, I should probably do that. Okay. I would make a motion to instruct the administrative assistant to provide the planning commission with a copy of the streets and sidewalks ordinance, as well as a copy of the relevant section of the Act 250 permit that was granted in 1975 when the development on Colonial Drive was established, that relates to an exemption for 4 properties having driveway access to to East Pittsford Road.
For the August 1st meeting? You want to add that?
If that is reasonable for the town administrator, I would happily amend that motion to the August 1st meeting. You okay with that, Bill?
Yes.
Okay, such is my motion.
Excellent.
second,
One of these days, I'm gonna have to swirl that table around.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just, I think Bill said we can find the streets and sidewalk ordinance on the website. You've asked him to provide us a copy with it, a copy of it. I'm not sure we need that. If it's on the website, we can get
Well,
it.
we would if we're all sitting here reading it.
Hmm?
We would if we're all sitting here reading it at the same time at the next meeting, wouldn't we?
Okay.
Nice.
I see.
It's a reference copy. That doesn't preclude us, I don't think, Norman, from
I
doing our own
understand. I
research.
understand. Sure is correct. Thank you.
Ready for the question?
Hope so.
All those in favor of Dana's very fine motion? Say aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed?
What about folks online?
I said aye.
Can I abstain?
And Howard?
I said aye. Yep. I support it.
Unanimous.
Good job.
Thanks.
Okay. On to the next item in the agenda. It is, I guess it's no, the Townwide celebration. So I thought tonight, the Townwide celebration is August 24th, the TWC.
It says 19th here,
The 24th.
and that's a
Sorry.
Monday. So I was,
Yeah, so that's not, that's not
It's August
correct. So we'll say
24th.
the
That was last
24th.
year. That was last year. This year it's the 24th.
So let me share this for Howard and Mary Beth. Everybody see that in Zoom land? Okay, hopefully you do. So this is the last slide presentation that we had concerning river corridors. A few months ago, the Nature Conservancy and Sea Grant of Lake Champlain were here, and they did this. At our last meeting, when we were talking about the town-wide celebration, we mentioned maybe doing, having a slideshow running during the day. So if that's still what we are thinking about doing, I thought we'd look at this one, see what slides we want to keep and which ones may not be necessary, see if that would be still a good idea for the townwide celebration. And then maybe, thank you, Donna. We may want it narrated, which would make more sense if it was just gonna, make more sense than just having slides, running through slides, unless we have different ideas. So, everybody agree that we'll just go through here and there we go. So we've got
Can I
this.
just ask, how is it gonna be done so that you can see it with the amount of ambient light that's gonna be out there?
Well, if it's on a laptop, people could get close to it and maybe cut off some of the glare and such.
Hmm.
You think we should project it
And that's just, so that unless it's big, people aren't gonna really see it. If it's on a laptop size, I don't think it's
yeah,
even worth doing.
Huh.
Certainly if you had a reasonable sized television, 50, 60 inch or something that could catch people's eye.
okay. And maybe do a couple showings during the day.
Just, we'll have it looped continuously.
Just loop.
You think that's doable, Bill?
We don't have a TV then.
We have power there.
No power there, yep.
We can work on a monitor, a TV. So yeah, this is
Let's
just,
go to Rent-A-Center and rent one for a day. I'm just thinking.
I think there are options.
Okay.
And so, okay, this is
We could
table.
take it down from, we could use that one. Take it down.
Good suggestion. I heard Andy said he was gonna bring his down so we can use it.
So we've got this flood history slide.
Yep.
Got the second flood history slide, which
What does that show, that slide?
I think they put, those circles, around areas that
Where the floods occurred?
were affected by the 19 disastrous floods. It probably adds up to 19 there. I can double check that.
The interesting statistic that I see that jumps out at me, and I would bold it or make it somehow different, is that since 2011, 17 of those floods have occurred. So in the last 13 years, 17 floods have occurred to create, well, actually, I don't know that, unless there were multiple ones in 73 and 76.
Hmm.
But if we're talking about that would be a statistic that I'd really like to know, because that would be a very powerful image relating to why we need to do something about river corridors. Because climate change has affected the intensity of the flooding in the last 13 years. I'm just looking at the numbers that are up there. So 12 to 18. So we're going 12, 13, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 7 years. 11 is 8 years and 23 is 9 years.
After last night, you gotta add
24.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is that if we could have more detailed information, well, that's just Rutland.
Mm-hmm.
1973 to 2011, there were 19 disastrous floods of regional scale. One flood every 2 years.
Statewide, and then in Rutland,
Right.
it's,
So having the numbers of when those occurred and the frequency, if it is in fact true, my assumption that the frequency has intensified in the last 12 years, that would be worth noting. as to why this is important. If we're focusing on education, this is for everybody. It's not just for property owners who have land, and we're not just trying to tell them what to do. We're trying to ensure the safety of all town residents by making sure that floodwaters have a place to disperse so that they aren't flowing with the intensity and the power to destroy as they did with Irene and have done since, particularly up north. So,
Okay.
but anybody who's heard my opinion can criticize it or amend it or anything else. It's just something that struck me.
That's slide number 4.
Okay.
We might want some additional information on.
Yep.
Um,
So you're taking notes on that, Barbara? Are you going to
Yeah.
ask? Okay.
yeah. So, 5, just an example of a type of flooding, inundation.
That's in the
this case.
capital? That's in Montpelier?
Yeah, yeah, looks like.
Looks like the
Montpelier.
dome in the back? Okay.
Yeah. And then,
That's Route 4?
Route 4, in Irene,
Yep.
that's erosion.
Barbara?
Yeah.
One thing that occurs to me is that if each of these individual slides don't have some designation of location, to me, they lose their impact. So if this is in Wallingford, or if it's in Rutland Town, or if it's in Montpelier, seems to me the impact changes. Particularly,
Maybe for the worse, they say, oh, well, that's Montpelier again. You know, that's
yeah, I
not,
think this-
that's not Rutland. We
Notice
don't
I
have
started
those
to
problems.
stumble on that, but at least show the ones on Rutland and don't show anything for the ones that aren't Rutland County.
Mm,
So they're
okay, so,
identified.
yeah,
These are
okay.
just examples.
Of the types.
Of what can happen. And I think that denoting where they occur only provides a point of emphasis and some place for people to actually connect with what they know. I don't think that's ever a bad thing, and I don't think people are going to dismiss it because it's not in your own backyard. And that Route 4, damn it would be great if we could get another picture or two, because that's Mendon and bordering on Rutland Town. And so that's very close.
Yeah,
to
we
it.
we could even try to find a picture of last year in
Right.
Killington,
That would be great, you know,
in addition to
in addition, right?
Irene and then
Yep.
23.
Even last year in downtown Rutland on the 2 or 3 streets right in right near
Church
Route
Street?
7.
Oh,
There was 2 streets that flooded very badly and everybody. And Michael Talbot, for some reason I remember this, from the Board of Aldermen had a picture that the Herald ran. But that's close enough to hit home, you know. And so anyway,
Okay.
but I think those pictures speak very loudly about what can happen if we don't take some type of corrective action.
Right. The difference between this one,
It's the same pictures, no?
the same picture, the red,
80% of Vermont flood damage is a result of erosion.
yeah.
I
so
mean,
it's just-
If you wanted to, you could take the first one out because it doesn't show anything. And then this would show the statistic. That's
Yeah.
small potatoes. But so this is what, slide 9?
Yeah, and if anyone runs across any Rutland area photos, send them to me. If you
Yeah.
run into Michael Talbot or anything like that.
One of the things that I feel strongly has contributed to the erosion situation when we do get an abundance of rain is back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, early 80s, towns could get summer permits from the state water resources to go into the streams like the White River. I personally know about that one because I was involved with them. And take gravel from the river. And we had to do that under strict management practices. And they would even measure depths as to be sure you weren't getting down too low, which was good. And that prevented a lot of the water in the heavy times, like 73, for instance, from moving to the sides. There's been a ton of homeowners, farmers that have lost a lot of stream banks because in 1981 they passed a law in the Montpelier said the towns couldn't take gravel from the rivers anymore. So you can't have it both ways. That's my message.
Were you here when they did this presentation? Did you ask that question?
I did.
And I think the answer was, well, they had to decide one way or the
Well, he hung his hat on the fact that the federal government in these large streams has some jurisdiction now, and their restrictions are pretty heavy in terms of allowing disturbing the riverbeds.
even stream beds.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
the Coal River, they could do that too. I think the Coal River, there were permits to dig gravel out of the Coal River back in the sixties and the
Yeah.
seventies.
Yeah. And after Irene, they suspended those regulations, and they went in and fixed the stream beds, riverbeds,
statewide.
back to where they needed to be to, just make common sense repairs.
Yeah, so it's sort of a choice between dealing with a flood and making those problems less severe, and versus the ecological reasons for not doing that kind of stuff.
Well, look at the ecological, look at what look at what just happened in northern Vermont, though. If you talk about killing some fish because you're dredging and you're repairing those riverbeds, there's going to be fish and other species and other living things that are going to become a problem. How many living things just died in northern Vermont because the floods just raged through there? I mean, there's going to be, those fish are done. I mean, it really is, a fish are just part of it, but as an example. So
Right.
you kill them all because you have these big floods, or you go in and you manage those riverbeds. I don't know.
So, yeah, I mean, we get into managing here. So maybe we want to adjust some of these slides coming up. We probably want to keep this one, the 74% more downpours since from 1958 to 2011. The topography. And again, maybe we can consolidate that, as Dana suggested before. And this is the first in a series of slides about a river. I think this is in the Huntington area, if I remember correctly. So that's the latest radar of that area. It's called LIDAR. And this is what the development looks like in that same area now. And
That could easily be around here. All you have to do is pick any river or stream bed and see where the development is and extrapolate the same thing could happen.
right. And the river corridor would be
Ground
within,
shaded area on the either side of
with the red lines.
Yep,
Yeah.
where the red lines are. Yep.
Okay, so here's the controlling river stuff. And they put this, this was an ad or what this was in the lower left, how dynamite streamlines streams. And then a photo of, post dynamiting and straightening that channel.
Where?
Anywhere.
Is that, is that,
I'm not sure we're going to find Rutland examples for everything here.
no, but I just think it'll have more credibility no matter where it is, if it's identified.
It might be in the fine print here. I can't see right now. So here is the Besumsik in the Northeast Kingdom. And some of the,
That's the same thing on the right side of the something.
yeah, where it was straightened.
Right. Thereby creating a channel for it to accelerate and intensify in strength and speed, right?
Oh, actually it says Huntington River there. So that wouldn't be so these are two different rivers. One that's left alone and one that's been straightened.
One that's left alone is on the left-hand side.
Yeah, the Besumsik. And this is another channel straightening and slope. Not sure where this is.
Right, but the whole point is that by showing the contrast, you've got a snaking river that is original, and then you're superimposing a straightening channel, which will actually allow the waters to pick up speed and intensify in power.
Yeah, the meandering is original and it's what rivers want to do.
Right.
It would,
And if it goes over,
After the
if it goes
straightening.
over its banks, it's just going to spread out into that area around the bends,
Exactly.
as opposed to flowing straight and creating erosive situations and destruction of roads or houses or whatever.
and Howard and Mary Beth, feel free to chime in anytime.
Looks good.
Okay, yeah, Howard.
No, I just said, it looks good. It shows the real story as to what it's all about.
You know, the other thing, Howard, that I was just thinking is that if one of us or two of us or a couple, it doesn't matter, could actually do at least once or twice during the looping, that we would put out that there will be a presentation, so that if people want commented interactive participation in the slideshow, that there'd be an opportunity to talk to one or two of us who would be sitting there. Anybody that feels comfortable commenting on the slides and what we've learned. So that might be another option. One around the time that lunch begins while people are waiting in line, and another one later in the day, an hour or so before the end of the day. There might be two opportunities to do education around this PowerPoint.
So still have it looping throughout the day.
Yep, but
have
then
a
we could
couple-
slow it down or stop it and do a commented presentation. That way, people would have an opportunity to interact with us. They would be able to get the information from the slides. If we don't know the answers, we can at least write those down and say that we will try to respond when we get an expert from because that's part of our education anyway. We can let them know that sometime in the fall or next spring that we are going to be hosting an informational meeting to help people become more informed. I don't know. I'm just talking off the top of my head at the moment,
Sounds good.
which is a dangerous place to talk.
So I think there's a couple slides here about dredging. Take a little explanation. This is where I especially think maybe even during the looping, that a narration might be welcome for these slides.
There's a big difference between having the river control and be deeper and straight, or letting meander and making it deeper.
Right,
You know what I mean,
right.
I mean, if you create a straight, I agree. It's just so much power, and straight ahead and it's gonna rush. But if the existing riverbeds are made deeper.
So
You have to wonder what some of these storms are, how they're deepening the channel
already,
naturally.
I don't
You
know
know.
if they're deepening them as much as they're eroding and they're filling in. I mean, if you just drive into Woodstock, those rivers are enormous now width,
Yeah.
but when they're running in the middle of the summer, they're this deep. And there's just no depth left there.
Yeah.
So they spread, they get wider and wider.
Right, which is a good thing. It slows down the water. I mean, that's the concept.
Second Jerry's thoughts here. I often drive, because I have a friend up in Thetford now, up Route 100 from Killington to Bethel. And the change in the width of that
Big.
is significant. And in the summertime, all you see is sand. But both the depth and I think it was a result of Irene. It's beautiful when it's full and you come around these wide turns. It's as scenic as can be, but it also, I think there is better control. But the width is unbelievable, and Woodstock too. When you go that way, it's almost scary. I mean, I've had a couple times when I wondered whether I was going to.
Well, I'm sorry you can also look at just simple as those rafting places.
Yeah.
They're gone because it's not deep enough anymore to raft in the summer. It used to be. It's not anymore. So I don't mean that that's the solution to make it deeper. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But Irene definitely changed that, and these things seem to be ramping up more and more and more and more. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not saying I know the
just
right answer. I'm just saying what I see.
a side story to
Yeah.
the natural process.
So Jerry, I was gonna ask you a question. When you were saying, make it wider and deeper, you're looking at the first half of that slide, the top half, where it says low banks, low flow depth, as opposed to the one that's underneath that has a very deep, narrow channel, right?
Right. So they're saying, it looks to me like they're saying that if you keep it low, it is, am I wrong? To me, it looks like they're saying if you keep it low, it's lower velocity and there's more room to spread on the sides when
That's
it's
right.
wider.
Right.
But the wider it goes, the more those roads are falling into those rivers. I don't understand the
I see.
logic behind. I'm not saying that just depth is solving it. And I'm sure,
Right.
they obviously these people are professionals at it, but I think that what we knew as kids here in Vermont, the rivers don't look like they were when we were kids. There were less floods when we were kids. I don't care what the statistics show. I know, I mean,
That was the
anybody
point I
who
was
grew up
trying to
here,
make. Yep.
from the time I was, 3 years old or whatever, we were talking about it today. And the thing was, do you remember any significant floods in the greater Rutland region? And granted, our mind, we don't remember everything, but we were all in agreement until Irene. I don't remember any huge significant flooding going on.
They came much less frequently, like 27 and 48.
I get it, but as soon as Irene came through and changed the whole topography, even these events that are 3 and 4 inches of rain are raising those levels of those rivers right over to the sides of the road. Like you can see it every time you go to over to Queechee through over to Woodstock. You see that river just rises up. I don't think that river's that deep anymore. It's just not. It widened, but it filled in, so it stretches right out to the edge of the road bank, or the river is right on top of the road now. I don't know. I'm not saying that things are changing. I get that too, and I don't think there's obviously not an easy solution, but anyway.
So this dredging shows low erosion versus high erosion. Depending on whether there's low banks or tall banks.
What this picture shows me, though, is that you don't want to be building either way on the sides, because both pictures are relatively consistent on the margins. It's on the left side and the right side.
Mhm.
The difference is that on the top one, you have water that when it floods will go up and spread out where those trees, I think those are trees, on the top slide. Whereas on the bottom one, you have the power of the river that is going to carve out those banks and cause them to cave in.
And cause the water table drop. See that?
I'm sorry.
The water table drops.
Oh, yes, I do see that. The yellow bar. Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
read.
which may make development less favorable in that area.
Because in terms of drilling for wells or whatever, you can't access the water.
And yeah, I don't know if it affects the vegetation, the trees. I don't know. The water table was some unanswered questions with
Yeah.
these slides.
Well, it'd be helpful if we got somebody to help us interpret them. Because the last thing we need to do is provide a comment or an interpretation that's not accurate.
Mhm.
Jerry's point.
Okay. That's 20, 21. So we've got 20 is channel dredging, low, high erosion.
There's a little one that
That's-
popped up. Is 22 the one that has the little picture down in the right-hand corner?
That's 21. So that's 20 and 21.
I
I'm
don't
not
think we
sure
need
that,
both. I don't know.
not sure we need 21,
I don't know. Yeah.
but it does address another angle of it being too close to a highway system, but
Yeah, I don't know that that overlay is helpful for me. What do you think, Jerry? That little inset down there on the
so
right.
the only difference between these two is the little,
Yeah, that doesn't do anything for me.
okay, and 22, the state of our rivers.
I think we need help on interpreting that, honestly,
Yeah. If we keep it.
if we keep it. Otherwise, just get rid of it.
That's about the only one that makes sense to me.
Oh, this one?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it shows
You
kind of
explain.
the natural progression of those houses are going away because they're falling into the river. They're not there anymore. So those old houses that were built on the side of the river when the times were different
Yeah.
and we weren't getting these events all the time.
Yep.
Naturally, they're kind of going away, which is terrible. For the
oh, I
people.
see. I get it. Yep.
Email?
I was having trouble
Well, maybe.
seeing it as
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
There's a lot of info
Kind of,
there.
it kind of makes sense what they're, I
Saying
think.
maybe I didn't
Yeah.
scroll down far enough.
Okay.
Yeah, it was attached to it all. Yeah.
And then,
Here's what we used to do with taking
Yeah,
gravel
this,
out.
see, that's my whole point. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you remove the gravel and you keep a consistent.
Well, I'll tell you, there was a heck of a lot less bank erosion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Thank you both.
so 20, so we got 22, which Jerry's going to explain.
Yeah.
And 23, which takes a section of that
It adds.
and that section is sort of where we are now.
That's what by percentage would. Yeah. By percentage, what stage all of our rivers are in? Is that what that means? Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I see the pie chart and then the 5,000 miles that were assessed.
Yep.
And 75% of them. How does that correspond to what's on the left-hand side?
It doesn't.
I don't think it does.
Well,
They outlined the pie chart in
The
orange
state, yeah.
to show you that these three stages are these three stages here.
Yes, that's right.
Ah.
So it goes by stage.
That makes
All
sense.
right, Bill.
So stage 1 is equilibrium. That's the first one on the top that's outside of the orange. And then as Bill just said, the orange part of the pie chart includes stage 2, 3, and 4. 20, 37, and 18. So
And that's where they're
55,
coming up with that 75%.
That's right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Way to go, Bill.
Okay,
In other words, 75% of the rivers are currently unstable.
That is a little bit, well, doesn't matter. It's a little bit misleading that 4 is 19 or 20%, and that's stabilizing. At least it's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But then it turns around and says 75% of them are unstable. Wouldn't stabilizing be something other than unstable? But anyway, that's just,
yeah, that they're taking the most dire definition of that, I guess.
right, exactly.
Extreme
Yep.
definition.
Effective.
Yeah, anything that is
Sort
not
of.
stable is unstable, I guess.
And the last,
Regardless of
I
what.
guess. I think I like Barbara's assessment.
and so number 24 of 24, do we want to keep this? Do we want to,
Where is this?
I don't know, Norm. It's anywhere Vermont.
So the question is a good one.
It says Waterbury.
Whatever.
I think so. It looks like one of the state buildings at the end of the street to me.
Ah.
Way down there,
Yeah,
see the brick
yeah.
building right at the end of the street.
Right? Could be, during Irene.
Right.
So the question is a good one because that's what we're trying to address in our river corridor.
How so?
ordinance. Huh?
How so?
What can we do to reduce our exposure to
Okay.
flood hazards? Right, we can be proactive in where we build, and we can allow riverbeds to follow their own course rather than trying to channel them into more powerful natural phenomena. The picture doesn't necessarily do anything for me, except that it's a flood. But
Do we want to change the picture to include something from the area? Or does this, the boats and the,
Find the one from the Herald that they were talking about down by was the party store, those couple streets down there.
yeah,
Right near
Those are the ones
Lamontos.
Below that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
below that.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of the street. It's the second street. There's that street and there's one more.
is it Summer Street?
they have Royce and you have.
Nope. Not Royce.
Royce is up on the hill,
Okay.
Further down, further south.
all the way at the bottom.
Clover,
yeah.
Clover.
Anyway, sure.
Clover.
They're gonna take that street out,
Clover
Might as well.
and the whole street.
Clover and Hopkins are the two that.
Clover
are
and Hopkins, yeah.
particularly bad.
So, yeah, if you could pull something that relates to an event that has happened here that people can identify with, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay. So that's all the slides. Mary Beth or Howard, any thoughts, or did we miss any times you wanted to say something?
Yeah, that sounds good.
The only other comment I'd make is that my sense of aesthetics would like the font to be the same size in the question. The top part of that
yeah,
question
yeah.
is at least 2 points bigger in font than the bottom one. And my wife gets mad at me.
And I don't, my mind just doesn't go there. Just doesn't.
Human error is human error.
Well, if I spend too much time looking at the same slide, that's where my mind goes.
Anything else that we should add to this?
Is there a link for more information where they could, where people could go, and do we have a card that we can hand out to them? To the resources that have been available to us?
The, something we could include is like a link to the river corridor ordinance that we haven't dealt with yet, but we've got a state model.
Well, let's give it to the state, show the state model of what's up.
Isn't there one of those river corridor? Well, I guess this kind of shows it. The river corridor. There's one of those, or you know, the one thing that we had when we were talking about river corridors.
Got
There's one or two of those pages that are pretty. They kind of show you pretty well what they want to do or
Yeah.
what they're proposed. They seem to be, but it's probably too much of a pain in the butt to get those.
You know, what's not in here is the ERAF, the disaster relief fund.
Yeah, right.
And you know, how much more money would be available to the town of
Right,
That'd be a
Rutland?
good one.
That would be a good one.
Okay,
And we could put it after the slide too, that we would have
Right.
more money available for us. You know, we could adopt the river corridors, we would get money. All of those would be things that
so at the end, are you saying?
after the slide. So it says, this is the last slide, right?
Yeah,
So what can we do? And then put in a couple of slides with the ERAF and the river corridors
the link.
draft ordinance from the state.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Like it.
Okay. So, again, if anyone, and this includes everyone here, anyone runs across any photos, let me know. We've got some good ideas here. Do we think we want this narrated?
We'll do it.
Well, that's the next question. The first question is, should it be narrated?
For the townwide celebration, I don't think so. There's too much noise. It's too much. There's music. There's people. It's going to be different. You have to have it at such a high volume that it's going to be to not get received.
That's why I was thinking that we would have a couple of people comment.
Yeah.
And do the presentation without the narration, but have a couple of us at each opportunity to comment on it and do it interactively. Now,
Okay,
to that point, Barbara, if somebody wants to put down a few talking points for each slide
mhm,
that we could then share or use,
mhm.
that might be helpful.
Okay, that's everyone's assignment. We've got two meetings before the townwide celebration, but the second meeting is, just a couple days before. So really, the only other real work meeting we have is the next one, the first, when we're also looking at the driveway permit. So, yeah, if you would, I think most of you have copies of this now, and Howard, and Mary Beth, I can leave some extra copies here if you want to stop by and pick them up and look them over and make any comments.
Okay.
Does that sound like a plan?
I'll be away.
You'll be away for the townwide celebration? But you'll be here the first. Or not? Okay.
So do your homework and then you can go on vacation. You're welcome.
You still trying to get out of the homework, or I didn't quite get the drift?
I've given everything I can give to this.
Okay. Any announcements?
Stop sharing that so they can see you here.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Not too much from the select board, right, Bill?
No, it was a 1-3-person board last week, so.
Right, right. Okay, let's go to the minutes of June 20th.
Move to approve the minutes of June 20th.
Okay, is there a second?
I was absent, so.
I was too.
Jim, were you here?
Is my motion to the minutes going to fail to get a second and we're going to have to postpone?
Barbara, Dana,
Norm
Howard,
can second these.
Mary Beth, and Mark.
What?
I
You
can second it.
I'll second, whatever.
Thank you.
And want my motion to die. An untimely death.
Any discussion of the minutes of June 20th? Going once.
At risk of being pedantic, under old business number 2, I think we have a reduplication of the same word or combination. The consultant reviewed the suggestions for the park and it did not create any major concerns. Those were reviewed. So that second were reviewed could just be stricken, I think, and then would be all set.
What are you
Just-
referring to?
Old business,
the
bullet
third,
point number 2.
the third old business, Pocket Park,
Oh, sorry. Pocket Park archaeological review.
Oh,
There was a reduplication of reviewed.
okay. Does the maker of the motion approve the change?
Yeah, as amended, sure.
And the two, I didn't catch which one beat the other one, Howard or Mary Beth for seconding. Do you approve that change on page 1?
Yes.
Approve the change, which changes the motion?
So
Okay,
Mary
Yeah.
Beth, you'll accept that friendly amendment.
Yes, I second that amendment.
Thanks.
back to us next week.
okay. Ready for the question? All those in favor of the minutes as amended? Please say aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Any nays? Couple of abstentions. All right. Anything else?
I can motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I'll second that one.
all right.
Oh.
We're adjourned. Thank you.